We're talking with Eric Metaxas. He's written a new book, Letter to the American Church. I heard you describe this, Eric, as the most important book you've ever written, which is a huge statement because the Bonhoeffer book and the Wilberforce book, they're both phenomenal, and all your books are great. Why is this the most important you've written?
Well, you know, first of all, I want to be really clear. Actually, first of all, let me say Happy New Year. I forgot. Happy New Year. And I am hopeful. Ultimately, I'm hopeful. However, a lot of times authors say, oh, this is the most important book I've written, or whatever. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I wish it weren't true, but I know this is the most important book I've ever written. It's also the shortest book I've ever written. But this book wouldn't be possible if I hadn't written the book on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, if I hadn't written the book on Wilberforce. I believe God called me to tell those stories in book form to prepare me to see what is happening now in America. And at the heart of the whole thing is this lie. And that's why this letter to the American church, I make this clear so that people, especially Christian leaders, can understand how they bought the lie. German pastors bought the lie, and it led to hell on earth. What is the lie? Well, at the heart of it is this idea that we're not supposed to be political. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Because if you are against the slave trade, William Wilberforce, my hero in my book, Amazing Grace, his Christian faith led him to see that slavery and the slave trade were an abomination, were an evil thing that needed to be eradicated from England and from Europe. It was because of his faith that he led the battle in politics to abolish the slave trade. Now, we don't go back and say, oh, he was political. He should have kept his politics out of faith and kept his faith out of politics. We cheer him because we all know, unless we're idiots or evil, that slavery is wrong.
Yeah.
But today, there are many people, just like in the 1930s, they're hearing this thing, oh, we're not supposed to be political. Christians shouldn't be political. We're supposed to focus on the gospel. That is theological nonsense, absolute nonsense, and it is wicked, worse than nonsense. Because we are called by God to bring our biblical faith into every single sphere of life. It is why Wilberforce brought his faith into politics and into English culture and said, we must abolish this evil. Similarly, today, Christians or anybody who has any kind of faith in what is right and good and true, you have an obligation to advocate, to work however you can. It's kind of like saying, well, you know what, I shouldn't care about the poor. You shouldn't care about the poor. God commands you to care about the poor. That may mean that you get involved in politics. It may mean that you get involved in other things. But the idea that you're supposed to keep your faith private, just keep it in the church. You know, they let you do that in China, right? Yeah, you just keep it in the church. But once you leave the church, you bow to the secular authority of the state. Well, there are Christians in America who have believed this lie and are imposing silence on themselves by saying that theologically, I should just stick to the gospel. I'm here to say, and I say it at length in the book, I explain, it is nonsense. It is a theological absurdity. It is not biblical to keep your faith inside the church. You're supposed to take your faith and what is in the church out of the church into the world. If you don't do that, the values of the devil are going to prevail. The poor will be crushed. Slavery will continue. And every bad thing that is happening today, which we see on steroids in the last 2 years, will continue. Big government authoritarianism, the end of liberty, the end of religious liberty, the end of free speech. All of these things are being attacked principally because the church has abdicated its role in being a leader, in advocating for truth and justice. We've said, well, we don't want to be controversial. We don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to bring up anything that could be political. It's complete nonsense. The idea that we should not be political is, as I say, it's just a lie designed to silence the voices of truth in this generation. And specifically in the church, there are many not only that have bought this lie and that are self-censoring, but that are advocating silence on all of these issues.